Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are taking the Maryland Crab Cake Tour out on the road through
Mm.
the holidays. We're at the Greenmount Station up in Hampstead this week. I hope I have leftover the crab cakes from there for Thanksgiving. But after Thanksgiving, we're doing several shows through the holiday season. We're starting at Coco's with some spiked eggnog. The fifth will be up at the BMA at Gertrude's with my cousin John
Okay.
Shields and the great Dan Rodricks. All of it brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery, who have Raven scratch-offs to give away, as well as our friends at Jiffy Lube Multi-Care, powering Luke back and forth to Owings Mills and beyond into the playoffs, hopefully around here in football season, also monitoring baseball, all that stuff, politics, business, crab cakes, holidays, pumpkin pie, sweet potato pie, apple pie, a la mode, all of that good stuff, as well as music classic. But our partnership with Coppin State University is what we're going to talk about right now. You put the radio on some nights, Tuesday nights. Sometimes I'm coming back from Planet Fitness, whatever. You hear some Coppin State, some dribbling,
hmm
great play-by-play throughout the winter season. Have been our partners for a decade now, over a decade, 12 years. Now we're trying to dig a little deeper into what Coppin State's all about. Once, twice a year, we bring on Dr. Jenkins to talk about not just our partnership, but
hmm
Stu over there coaching them up and basketball season and all the good things going on. Joshua Humbert is the Coppin State. Now I want to get I'm terrible with titles. Vice
Yeah.
President for Advancement, External Relations, Alumni Association, University Relations, Executive Director at Coppin State University of their foundation. I know I've seen you around the court the last couple of
Yes.
years because I've been out there.
Yeah.
How are you? Welcome in. Not a doctor, but a vice president.
Yes. Yes. Like I was telling you, I don't want those extra problems in student bills.
I always say anybody's got a C, they're a chief. And I'm like, man,
Yeah.
you're in charge of something. That means people are complaining and coming to you. I see this in your background in Indiana. First things first, the first thing I noticed about you coming to town and being a part of this
hmm
with everything Dr. Jenkins is trying to do over there with Coppin and Grow,
Yeah.
and just get better at everything. You came in the middle of the mess, man. You came in
Yes.
21,
Yes.
masks on, people don't even see your
Yeah.
face around the campus the first year. And at a time when I think colleges have gone remote and remote
Yeah.
learning, and there's so much about Wi-Fi, and we're losing that
hmm
generation. And you're in the middle of this now, where a lot of these kids on your campus, and I say kids, young people, really
hmm
live through the weirdest time
Yeah.
educationally I can imagine out there. So I would think the campus has changed a lot from the time you got there
Oh
to
yeah.
now.
It's booming and it's bussing with students walking around. And the good thing is we have a academy, Coppin Academy on our campus as well. So that adds to a bit of the life of some of our high school students and things of that nature. So
What does that
when I
mean, the
tell
Coppin Academy? What is that?
Yeah, so we have a high school where I think we're the only university within the state that actually has a an academy, basically, which is a charter school, part of the Baltimore educational system as well. That Coppin has partnered with a high school, and they are actually located, use our facilities, our buildings. So you'll see students ranging from ninth all the way up to 12th, and then you also see college students as well. So it's a really great opportunity for us to be able to make sure that there is a strong pipeline of young students who are still in ninth through 12th grade,
Now,
and
these are
then
both
having
West Baltimore kids that might have been
yes,
going to
absolutely.
Walbrook or an Edmondson or
Yes, absolutely.
anywhere,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
Forest Park,
Anywhere.
sure.
Yeah. So having them on our campus and exposing them, puts them in a great position to see that, college is available to them, and that it's a real reality. And a
All
lot of them
city
are
kids,
first
though, right? Not counties
yeah,
or no? Yeah,
yeah. Just city kids. Most of them are from the city
city
kids.
residents.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
Correct.
How many young people are we talking about here?
Jeez. Don't get me lying, but I think close to 500 to 700
Oh,
all
wow.
in.
Okay,
So
so
yeah, I'll
you
double check those numbers,
No,
but yeah,
I'm
five to
not,
seven hundred. Yeah.
I come over a lot, honestly, for meetings I've been
Yeah.
over, right by Mendamen Park, come in, but a
hmm
lot of sporting events, right? And
Yeah.
I think your gym's really underrated for how
hmm
beautiful it is. People come in. I always wind up over there for the Morgan games. I got the East
Yeah.
Side, West Side thing going on, but there's always a lot of enthusiasm. I came over last year when we brought the LSU in for the ladies.
Oh yeah, that was
And
great. Yeah.
I mean, that was just holiday
Yeah.
the spirit. So when I'm over there, I sense that spirit and I sense what's going on. But on a day by day basis, I would say what you guys do foundationally, classrooms, young people,
Yes.
education, all of that. There's just a vibrancy when I go for those kinds of meetings.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say it's solemn, but it's a little bit quiet. There's a lot of learning going over there,
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
a lot of
Absolutely.
people. When I see the activity, that there's just movement on your campus all the time.
Yeah, and you mentioned when I came in 2021, yes, people coming back to work, and then getting their footing under them a bit, where a lot of folks had been, working from home for the last 2 to 3 years, and it's really good. It's we have a beautiful campus, and it's excellent to be able to see how we've actually embraced some of the new technology that has unfolded from the COVID. I mean, being able to take advantage of that, but then still getting back into the normal routine of why people go to a college, why they go to HBCUs, why they go for that, that extra extended learning where they want that college experience. So, a lot of that, yes, is comfortable when you can probably, do some of this in your pajamas, but, you come back for the networking, you come for the camaraderie, you come back for, the games and all the different sports. We've been MEAC champions in volleyball, MEAC champions in baseball. Our ladies went to the big tournament, fell a little short for softball. So, you don't get that sitting around in your pajamas. So we are excited to have everyone back on campus.
You talk about technology taking this thing further, and what I've tried to
Mm-hmm.
do in my 33 years of being an old sports radio guy that took live phone calls in live real
Mm-hmm.
time. And what I think I'm doing now and what I'd like to think I'm doing now. But the Zoom part of this
Yeah.
can be, you talk baseball. I mean, when Sherm's doing anything, I have him Zoom in now, talk Orioles
Yeah.
with me, whatever, because I think there is an availability
Mm-hmm.
that technology has brought us that I don't know what I am. What am I? Gen X, Gen old? I'm
You're, I,
56, whatever I am. But the way young people and even people that might be between their age and my age, like you,
yeah.
find younger people and the
Mm-hmm.
way they're seeing the world on their mobile devices, the way they're
Yes.
getting
Yes.
jobs, the way they're getting educated. Uh, you have the unique experience of staying young just because you're there to
Mm-hmm.
some degree, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When we have our interns coming in and out of the office, it's awesome, right? To be able to see how they're connecting the dots of what their future is going to look like in real time, it's a joy. I think it's one of those things where we have our scholarships and our scholarship holders. They get it when they come back for our commitment to excellence in homecoming, or when we have our scholarship luncheons for our donors to come back. They get to see it, and through publications that we put out to support the program as well. But when from being on campus, and then when they get to see the students that they're helping, and the dividends that their scholarships are providing, it really does transform their own lives. Because I always tell people, philanthropy is just a big word for big-hearted people, right? So at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're making a deposit in their journey as being philanthropists, because we also know that at a certain point in time, we had to redefine the profile of what a philanthropist looks like. So when they come back on campus, they get to see that, right? They get to see where our students are, struggling. They get to see where they're succeeding. They get to see everything in between, right? And that is a awesome experience for us to be able to not only see the transformation of our students, but then to see the transformation of our donors. Because a lot of them are making that big step from making $100 donation annually to making a endowed scholarship where 25,000 or 50,000 or above. The goal for them is to understand that we're in this journey with them, and that's why we launched the campaign too. So we understood when more and more people were seeing Dr. Jenkins' vision, they were seeing the transformation on campus, they were seeing all the beautiful things that were happening. And then we said there was never a better time to actually launch a campaign that really engulfed all those different ideas and principles and values that we were, sort of standing up.
Joshua Humbert is over at Coppin State, our partners in our flagship. He is the
Yeah.
vice president, the VP for institutional advancement. I read your bio, like I read up on people when they come on to learn things. And, I give you a hard time about Indiana and how we beat them
Yeah.
back in the days, Maryland fans around here, basketball, back when we were both younger men. But I see your master's degree in
Yes.
philanthropic studies from
Yes.
Indiana University of Bloomington. And I'm thinking, first things first, philanthropic studies. You mentioned what philanthropy is, and you've spent, a career in this. What is
hmm
that, and what should I know about philanthropy? Because I think I've learned
hmm
more in talking to people around Baltimore who have foundations and where
hmm
things like Goldsecker and the Able Foundation
hmm
and different, Harry and Jeanette Weinberg, names that
Yes,
I
absolutely.
have for years and years talked about through Ed Block Courage Awards and things that I've been involved in for 33 years trying to raise money.
hmm
But the fact that there's a true philanthropic say,
Yeah,
what do you learn in a couple of years on campus down there in Indiana besides good basketball and the legend of Bobby Knight and all those basketball things? Pretty good football team now too right now. Got to be
yes,
nice
yes,
because
yes,
they've
yes.
stepped that up a little
They've
bit.
done well. They've
But
done well.
from the university standpoint, to have somebody like you out
hmm
later in life doing what you went to school for and saying, this is how we build communities that have suffered, the places we're trying to rebuild in this, and doing
Mm,
it through universities where you've already told me you got 13, 14, 15-year-old people that are going to be
yeah,
going into that leadership role that
yeah,
when I'm a little older, hopefully staying out of the nursing, these are the people going to be running our
yeah,
world. This is where philanthropy starts with someone like you
yeah.
getting this sort of an education and bringing it to Coppin.
Yeah, so well, I think you might actually have just earned your your master's degree. You explained it so well. You know what I mean? It really is the third sector. You have business, you have public, which is the government, and then you have the third independent sector, which is the nonprofit space. You know, a lot of the things that we do, from our high schools to our libraries to our hospitals to our associations to our nonprofits, they actually cover a wide range of those 501c3s and all the above, and they have mission based priorities. And the goal for that is understanding that in this country we have such a strong independent sector that it's really hard for individuals to live life in America without experiencing some level of nonprofit activity, right? Or philanthropic activity, even with our well established institutions. So the goal is, how do you create leaders and folks in the expertise the same way you would do in business or the government? You know, the idea is, we need to wrap our hands around folks who take this industry very, very seriously, because most people, and it's more than just fundraising. They don't raise their hands in high school and college and say, I want to be a fundraiser, right? Like the same way they want to say, I want to be an engineer.
Or
But
even if they realized they were going to become a billionaire, what they would do with their
yeah,
money, right? Like
exactly.
that
You
would
don't
build
know.
something beyond I get a boat, I get a house.
Yeah,
Once you get all of that, I saw Mr. Rubenstein give a speech about the Orioles.
yeah.
He's a billionaire. Yeah, he's buying the Orioles and thinks he can do good things with the city
hmm
through it. In his mind, whatever billionaires do. But when
Yeah.
people come to Cop and get an education, do well, go on later in life,
Mhm.
they want to come back and be a
They
part of
want to
that in
come back.
any
Yeah.
institution, wherever it is, or
Yeah.
in any city or in any environment.
Yes.
And let's be honest, West Baltimore hasn't spawned that so well over a
Yeah.
100 years that it needs other people
To
to
do that, to
participate
come in.
for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think where most people look through a lens of, first I learn, then I earn, and then I return, which is I become a philanthropist once I've made it, right? One of the things that we've been able to start a culture of philanthropy at Coppin State University is the ability to let people know that you can redefine what the profile of a philanthropist looks like I mentioned. And it doesn't take a lot to give. It doesn't take a lot to give your treasure. We believe that people are smart, talented, unique, and curious, right? And our job is to help prepare, position, perform, and preserve their sort of legacy and the things that they want to do in the community, but they just need a little help. So the goal for us is be that North Star in West Baltimore that allows people to say, look, I can get involved and I have people that are going to help me along that journey, because it's more than just giving. It's the ability to wrap yourself around, your community, the solutions that you can bring as an individual and learn something along the way, right? It's the goal is to enrich your life as much as you are, enriching someone else's life. So I always say there's two sides to the giving coin. But what that does is builds an ecosystem for West Baltimore and Coppin to grow in such a way that is unimaginable. We have North Star goals, a part of, President Jenkins's 5 strategic priorities. And the goal for that is we increase our fundraising, we increase our endowment by 60%. We've increased our corporate partners by 25%. We've increased our technology. We've given out more scholarships than we've ever done. We our ranking. And last time, I don't know if you spoke to President Jenkins, but I think in 2019 we were number 53 on the U.S. New World Rankings. In 2023 we were number 35, and this year we are number 27. Right. So talk about these jumps and leaps and bounds. And it's not just Coppin, it's the entire community has wrapped their hands around ability for us to get there. So the goal is, if we keep pressing on this campaign, I think to date we've raised 17 million of the 25 million that we hope to close at the end of 2025. And we've seen phenomenal support from our alums, our corporate partners, and our faculty, our staff, and our students who give back. Believe it or not. So that gives me my energy when I see students, and I was like, wait, why did the student give $25? Right. And I know that they might struggle in themselves and they're living on pizza. And so those things. So you recognize that, what, we could all do a little bit. And it's really helping Coppin grow.
Joshua Humbert is our guest. He's the VP over at Coppin. And you mentioned HBCUs, and I
Mm-hmm.
think from the sports reporter background in me, it's about Fang and
Yeah.
basketball and the
Yeah.
MEAC and Morgan State having NFL players back in the
Mm-hmm.
day, and having some, in many cases, former NFL players coach their team in the same
Yeah.
way that
Yeah.
you've had a
Mm-hmm.
couple of NBAers coach your basketball team. At the heart of everything that Jeff Bezos's ex-wife has done, and creating a light around HBCUs and what they represent, and again, from a sports space, for me it was Grambling, right? And Coach
Yeah.
Robinson and Doug
Mm-hmm.
Williams in Super Bowls
I
40 years
remember
ago.
that. Yeah.
That's how you would know about that. But then you grow up in a city like Baltimore with this history for Morgan and Coppin and other
Mm-hmm.
schools here. And when you're on the sports side, you just know about NCAA and South Carolina
Mm-hmm.
State and Norfolk State. You learn about that from a sports perspective, but you learn about it in a different way from an educational side. And certainly coming from Indiana, I don't know your whole background, but I know you've
Yeah.
worked in other places. But you mentioned
Yeah.
HBCU. For our audience who may not have ever been to Morgan State's campus, or maybe only came over when LeBron came down and dribbled 15 years ago, or maybe he's been to a Coppin basketball game because they were there last year and they
Mm-hmm.
packed the place
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. What what sets apart HBCUs from a government standpoint, from a civic standpoint, from a community standpoint, and from your involvement when you go out to educate people that may not be as familiar with what even the alphabet part of it even means?
Yeah, yeah. And look, and that's a great, every institution has its own DNA, right? And I think there is a common thread that HBCUs, whether it's Morgan, whether it's Bowie, UMES, Norfolk State, where I went to my undergrad, and it's a common thread that we all share: the ability to uplift and provide an environment and an experience that wraps its hands around the ability to get people from point A to point Z, right? And yes, you can get that at a Towson, you can get that at a UMD, College Park, but the goal is there's an experience that, when you boil it all down, of duty and care and nurturing and potential of, the lives of our students who are sometimes on the margins of society, and they're bringing them along. At Coppin, President Jenkins says, there is not many institutions, right, will take a student who is struggling with a 2.5 and the valedictorian of a high school, and then get them across the finish line, right? Like, we do both. We get the student that needs a little bit more help, and then the brightest student, coming from high school that doesn't need as much help, but then also 10x them to get to the next level, so they're ready for a workforce ready minded position in their careers, right? So, and
I
I
think the
love that
hardest
about
thing is when any
HBCUs.
kid comes to you, based
Yeah.
on what I've seen politically here, and don't get me started on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
election and whatnot, but what I've seen is that there is a wide gap for what
Mm-hmm.
education represents in 12 grades of
Yes.
school in this country.
Yes.
And when they come from all over, I mean, Coppin State campus, I mean, I just look at your sports and the kids are coming from Hawaii, they're coming from the West, they're coming
Yes.
from
Oh yeah.
everywhere,
Yeah.
international, all of that. When people come there, not only cultural, religious, racial, whatever
Mm-hmm.
difference would be, just where they come and say, I've got a high school diploma,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what that represents for when they come to your front door. I think that's its own challenge because it felt a
Yeah,
little more homogenized in my era
yeah,
as to what, if I would have gone to Maryland or even a big school that would have had a lot of kids from a lot of places, we all would have read Catcher in the Rye. We all would have
yeah.
had East of Eden, and we all would have had, the solar,
Hmm.
just the basic same sort of education. I think education is very, very different in the modern
Yeah.
era as to what a recruiter would find and say what
Hmm.
a 17 or 18-year-old young person coming to any college, what they would
Yeah.
know or wouldn't know based on a diploma, right?
Yeah, and to you, and look, our job is to transform you once you get here, right? And so that value of your diploma takes you through, everything you're trying to do in life, right? It helps you, helps your family, helps your community. And at the end of the day, we have a certain DNA, folks always ask, what's the value proposition for an HBCU, right? And I tell them it's the secret sauce, and sometimes people don't understand that, but it really is our secret sauce of the way our experience, our academic, standards, the ability for our leadership to understand that these students come from a various different backgrounds, where sometimes when you go to a larger institution, they might not see everyone as an individual, just a block of students coming in for their freshman cohorts. And that's not to knock their system, but the goal is we understand not everybody wants to sign up for that. And then, to be honest, we have very, very big HBCUs out there as well, where people do want a little bit more of, what does it mean to have a very big campus, but still a very unique feel around how they're being treated by their faculty, their staff, and their leadership. So at the end of the day, I think we all work in some level of concert, whether we're separated by states, but there's a common thread that sort of pulls us all together with a unique experience. And especially when it comes to Black and Brown in this country, where, they've been our institutions that we can rely on for higher education when we didn't have access to a lot of other opportunities in this country growing up.
Well, you mentioned access to opportunities and where you were. You chose Norfolk State. Were you local there?
Oh
And I
no,
would,
I was a
I was,
DC guy. I was
you
a
were
DC guy, so
so
and I went
so.
down to Norfolk. Yeah,
Okay, so you could have gone to Howard. There were other
yeah.
opportunities for
Hmm.
you. What was a draw for you? Because I'm thinking in the back of your
Hmm.
mind, every time you're out working on philanthropy, working on building things, you say, "I work at Coppin, but hold on, I made a decision too to go to an
Yeah. Oh
HBCU."
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I'm sure you probably had other options as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. I went down, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I was 18. So, I
What
got
do we
off the
know?
bus.
What do we know?
Yeah,
I went to UB,
what do we know? I'm not gonna tell you I had it all worked out at 18.
I went to
But
community college so I
yeah,
could figure it out. I went to Dundalk
yeah.
Community College. I tell Dr.
Okay.
Curtinitis that all the time.
Yeah, so my thought is I saw the cheerleaders, I saw the band, and I saw the big buildings, and I saw a community that wanted me there.
Same thing. Every
Yeah.
kid that I know that goes to Alabama or Penn
Hmm.
State, they saw the same things you saw. You just saw it
Yeah.
in a different way, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, the big program, like, I don't, Dick Price Stadium, it was huge. You know what I mean? It was one of the biggest football stadiums I've had ever seen. And so from that perspective, like, it was such an environment that allowed me to say, hey, mom, I'm going to Norfolk. And my mom was like, well, I thought you were going to JMU, down in Virginia. I was like, no, I was like, I'm going to Norfolk. And they sold me. So from there, it was all she wrote. And I had a great undergraduate experience. And, so I see, by having those experiences, what Coppin is doing for their students to give them the same things that I had. And I got to tell you, I'm so excited and I'm proud of, Baltimore. I'm excited how West Baltimore has risen to the occasion of wrapping their arms around our growth. And I'm excited that our leadership is something that really does come to work every single day and trying to do a better job every day for our students, faculty, and staff.
Joshua Humbert is the vice president over at Coppin State, and Dr. Jenkins providing all sorts of leaders for us to talk about Coppin
Mm-hmm.
State. He's with institutional advancement, and the basics of this are you represent the school in trying to get funding from
Mm-hmm.
lots of different resources. And
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't say are we underfunded, overfunded. We always
Mm.
want more funding in different things, but
Yeah.
give me a few of the growth things that are happening at Coppin that when you say give him $1 million, as Dr. Evil would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Wait, where that money goes and what the few things we're doing at Coppin to try to make it
Mm-hmm.
bigger and better, aside from Stu's basketball program over there
Yeah.
next couple weeks.
No, no. So our research has developed so well. We're raising money for our research for our faculty, staff, and students. Then on top of that, the technology and how we build our technology has grown. Our facilities, making investments in our facilities, like our EAC, where so President Jenkins is sort of unique in this, is because a lot of presidents, when I came and I was interviewing for the position, they have this super big wing in the administration building, but President Jenkins put his office in the library so he could be up close and personal with the students coming in and out, so that he had access, right? That's not something, and I've worked for other higher ed institutions, and that's not something that a lot of presidents make an
He's never
intentional, what I
mentioned
mean?
that
Yeah,
before. I
he's
mean,
never, yeah,
so you got to
uh,
tell me some more secrets next
yeah.
time I have him on, because he won't brag about.
He won't brag
Hold
about
on,
himself.
stop,
Like,
stop, and say, hey, his office is in the library.
his office is in the library. He built his office in the library because he understood at the end of the day, it's about availability. If you ever watch Bronx Tales, it's all about location and availability, right? Sonny. And, he
Proximity
basically
is
said,
power.
proximity is power. And he has a student engagement background. And the goal is, if you want, and that's transformational leadership right there. If you want to understand what students are and the product, and especially him coming in 2020, where it was really knee deep in COVID. I'm glad he got here before I did. The goal is, he knew, so he had a foresight that the campus was going to look the way it did, right, and does right now. And from there, we built out the top floor of our EAC, which basically is a one-stop shop for all the student resources to help making sure that our retention goes through the roof, and which has, our enrollments up. I mean? So when you ask where that money goes, where it's $50, $100,000, or the 10 million or 5 million from some of our partners that we hope to receive down the road, it's, to get us to 25 million. It's the ability to understand that your money's going to something that allows us to feel as if it's not going into a black hole, right? It's not just going into something that you won't be able to tangibly see. And endowments are important because it allows us to do operating and strengthen our core. But we have so many things that we're improving at lightning speed. We've been able to 10x in so many different ways that, that's where your money's going, and people can see the changes all around. I don't know if you saw, Nestor, all of our marketing and branding across the city last year and this year, from billboards to, making our egos feel proud and our alumni feel proud about, Coppin's back, in a way that, they hadn't seen in a while. And our programs are, doing very, very well. And then on top of that, our sports teams have been winning championships. We've always punched above our weight. And I think, what people don't understand is that Coppin, a smaller institution, that we are beating the Howards, we're beating the Morgans, we're beating the Bowies, we're beating all the other places that come around that allow us to, show exactly why, yeah, don't discount us because, we might be a little bit smaller in size, but, our teams and our heart is big.
Number 27 with a bullet, he tells me. I got to learn more
Yes.
about these rankings. Hey,
Yeah.
listen, everything you just said in I'll leave you with this. We'll drop the mic on this
Yeah.
because it'll bring up the great Ron Fang Mitchell, whose name's
Mm-hmm.
on the court over there. That's everything Fang would say. We punch
Mm-hmm.
above our weight. We're
Yes.
15 seed. We knock off 2 seeds.
Yeah.
That's what we do. And that was
Yeah.
the last century.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 And I think we were the first HBCU to ever do it. I believe, yeah. So correct me, I believe that
That
is
is,
true.
yeah, there was never a
Yeah, yeah,
15 that, I mean,
yeah,
it was always as small as the schools were 15s
yeah,
and 16s and never
yeah,
beaten a one till a couple years ago.
yeah.
UMBC, hey man,
Hmm.
we play
Hmm.
ball here.
Yeah,
Don't tell
yeah.
me, right?
We
Muggsy
have a rich
Bogues, we got a
legacy.
basketball. Well,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Look, you about to get me to come out of this shirt, you know what I mean, and just suit
Well,
up.
I mean, if I had Stu on and he and Fang would say, guys, those Philly boys came down here. So, we had all the Baltimore guys here going to Georgetown and back in the
Hmm.
day and
Hmm.
Wingate, but we have it just Dunbar, just such a rich basketball tradition. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people do in my audience certainly think of you for basketball. I wanted to think about
Yeah.
you for more. Joshua Humbert is with us from Coppin State. We're going to get Dr. Jenkins back on here. We'll get
Hmm.
him out for a crab cake, maybe down to Fayetteville before it's
Yeah.
all over with. He is
Absolutely.
the Institutional Advancement VP over COP, and that involves philanthropic strategy, fundraising,
Yes.
and advancement. When I can spit it all out, I hope you have a
Yes.
great holiday. Most
Thank you
important,
so
I
much.
ask this for everybody. All right, it's Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
33 years into this, we got to get loose here. Pumpkin pie, apple pie, sweet potato pie, a mincemeat pie. What kind of pie we got for Thanksgiving?
Oh, sweet potato pie, sweet
All right.
potato pie and apple pie, with lots of whipped cream. It always beats it always helps me get to a really good relaxed space
I've been giving my
on the
secret
couch,
out. I've
on
been
the
giving my
couch.
secret out. So Wise Markets is our sponsor. We call these Wise Conversations. And if you've been
Hmm.
listening, you know why.
Hmm.
They have first off, they have a great dairy ice cream. They make world famous
Hmm.
ice cream. I've been to the factory up there with a little
Hmm.
scooper with the little net on my head. It was actually in the summer 21 and I did it. The cinnamon ice cream for the holidays. It doesn't sound, you'll be like, cinnamon ice. No, no, no. You
No.
got to have a half gallon of Wise cinnamon ice cream. Get it
Okay.
this week before because there's a run on it. When you have that, it works with everything. It works with any of
Okay.
these pies we're talking about. Because when you want, it's Thanksgiving. Go a la mode. You
Yeah.
don't want to
Yep.
deprive
Yep.
yourself.
Yep.
This
Absolutely.
is a time for be a little excessive. Get yourself $3, little half gallon of cinnamon ice cream. There's my
I'm
gift to
totally
you,
done. I
VP Humbert. How about
appreciate
that?
that. All right,
All
I'm
right.
taking it. I'm taking it, and then I'll post a picture of it when I'm on the couch watching football.
What you want to do is put it on there and let it melt a little. Just give it a minute, and then take a picture and then send that over and then get in there and devour it for the late games. VP Humbert from Coppin State,
Thank you
you
so
are our
much.
partner.
Thank you.
Thank you for
No,
coming on.
thank you.
A pleasure. A long time our flagship. You hear games around here at AM 1570. You
Mhm.
find great conversations. Dr. Jenkins is out as well as Coppin all over the front of BaltimorePositive.com. Stay with us.